Well, good afternoon. I'm finally got around to doing my video. Thank you, Virginia Lee. It was you who reminded me. But anyway, before we go any further, have a look at this t-shirt. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's lovely, very colourful. But because I've also got on a pair of sort of navy trousers, pyjama bottoms, it caused quite a stir at the gym this morning, because they thought I was dressed very conservatively. I thought, bloody hell, even at the pool. But there's been some terrible things happen this weekend. The Norwegian thing and the death of that poor young woman, Amy Winehouse, which she chose the wrong weekend to die, I suppose, didn't she? Because it's all been rather overshadowed by this terrible happening in Norway. Oh dear. I can't say anything about people like that, really. I'm not one of these people that think they're evil. I think he's completely twisted. Very sick individual. You know, who's allowed his belief in his absolute rightness to get completely out of hand, and I find that really disturbing. Excuse me a second. Lucas, shut up! Quiet! I've just fed the dogs. I don't know what he's going on about. But you know, I just hope that these people in America who are busy voting for right-wing extremists, which Michelle Bachmann and Sarah Palin, etc. are, they're not nice little women who seem to want to fix your country. They're extremists, and they're only one shot away from what this young man in Norway's just done, and they have similar beliefs. As far as the fundamentalist Christianity goes, fundamentalism of any persuasion is wicked. It's evil, and it can only produce evil. It doesn't produce anything else. It produces evil. And more fool you for voting for it and falling for it. Use your fucking brains. And don't be so damn selfish. Do you know, all I hear recently from people across the pond is, you know, what a hard time they're having. Well, you're not the only ones, you know. Look at Greece. Look at us here, the amount of unemployed we've got. You know, we have people on the breadline here too. And I laugh when you moan about the price of your fucking petrol. Have you any idea what the rest of the world pays? No, because you've been living in this cocoon where you're protected, where you're ignorant of what's going on everywhere else, and where the price of your fuel is protected. We all pay the real price. You pay a piddling amount for your fuel. God, if we only paid that for our fuel, we'd be laughing. We wouldn't be so bloody poor. We wouldn't have... Well, anyway, I'm sorry, but it just really does annoy me when I hear you complaining about the cost of your fuel. You know, and I know that my American friends will not take that personally. They'll know that I'm not saying that America's a dreadful country and their people are appalling and thick and stupid. I don't believe that at all. But I can't just let things be said and not at least try and correct them. Do you know, I had this ridiculous woman, and this is a ridiculous woman, I mean we have them too, but this person was completely ridiculous, and I thought to myself, what the fuck education did you get? Who is of the opinion that one, that Britain is a socialist society, that two, we do not get to choose our doctors, and three, we don't even get to choose our jobs, we do the jobs the government tell us. And I think, what fucking planet do you live on? Who taught you that? Crazy. She probably goes to some Southern Bible thumping school that is teaching... Oh, this has given me, yes, creation. I wonder if these people who are so insistent that God created everything can explain a few things. If God did create everything and we look up into the heavens, okay, And there are trillions. Can you even count those? No, you can't. Of course you can't. Billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and even more billions and loads of billions after that, and there's even billions after that. In fact, the billions don't seem to bloody well end. Of other planets. Of other suns. Not just our sun. There's billions of the fucking things. There's billions within our own galaxy. And our galaxy is just one of other billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions. Well, don't you think he was a tad wasteful? If we're it, don't you think that's a bit wasteful? Why have all that just for us? Doesn't seem to make sense. What do you think he was doing? So, let's make this. Oh no, oh god, that's another one buggered. Off you go. Oh, he must have been fucking knackered after all that. Can you imagine? And then finally he gets one little planet right. Says, right, now we'll fuck this one up and put men and women on it. And take a rib out of... Have I got a rib missing? Have I really got a rib missing? I don't think so. There seems to be the same amount on both sides, although I can't really feel. I don't know. Maybe we have got a rib missing, men. Well, I assume we have, if God took one and made women out of it. Could have made me another man. He wasn't thinking there, was he? But if God made everything, why the hell did he make rabies? Rabies is the most horrendous way to die. Absolutely appalling. Have you ever seen a person die of rabies? I have. On telly, of course. Never in real life. I wouldn't go anywhere near anybody with rabies. I'm not that stupid. But it's dreadful. Absolutely awful. I've lost 2 friends recently. Well, no, a friend and somebody else that I knew, from motor neurone disease. Did he make that too? Cerebral palsy, did he make that as well? Cystic fibrosis? And all the number of diseases that we're born with? And come to think of it, why didn't he make my bones better than they are? You know, I'm 52 and my bones haven't lasted me. Alright, I've got painkillers, but that's not really the answer. Doesn't do it all. Why do they never talk about that? Why do they never talk about the fact that, well, he obviously made malaria and typhoid and cholera and fleas. You know, people go on about how good the old days were, and I think to myself, did these people never go to school? Did these people never look at historical programmes on the TV? I mean, you don't have to be too bright to do that. You can just sit there and watch. And you think what life used to be like. Now, this terrible happening in Norway was commonplace. Yeah, you are, living in your little village, out in the country, scraping a living together, wearing rags, and the next thing you know, a whole load of soldiers on bloody lorries come along. Fucking lorries. No, they're not. What do you call them? Meh. They make a noise similar to that. Meh. No, that's sheep. Horses. And the next thing you know, you've been slaughtered. Happened all the time. Rape and pillaging just went on all the time. You weren't safe. In fact, when you think about it, we're bloody lucky any of us are still here. You know, so don't go on about how life used to be better in the old days. Better for who? Certainly wasn't better for women. Certainly wasn't better for children. And it certainly wasn't better for gay people. And it wasn't better for black people. And it wasn't better for Indian people, or Pakistani people, or any other sort of people, really. It's all pie in the sky. Idiotic twats. Dear. And if we only lived according to the Bible, everything would be fine. So much we can't eat, for a start. And then what would we do? Because we can't wear anything other than plain cotton or plain wool. No mixes, thank you very much. You know, and we'd have to be shagging left, right and centre. I just don't think people think things through. So, anyway, getting back to this idea that, you know, God created all of this. Well, I'd like to know why. Why so wasteful? And why create bodies that cause so much trouble to their owners? There are some people, of course, who believe that we deserve all this and that it's payback for being naughty in a previous life. That makes me feel like slapping them too, because that's such a stupid thing to think. They haven't thought that one through. Not at all. I remember there was a huge fuss in one of the spiritual newspapers years ago. I stopped buying it from that moment on, because this jumped up twat who thought that they were, you know, God's gift. They were highly evolved spiritual beings, of course, and they were writing to educate us each week. And the subject this particular week was children who were abused. And this person wrote, of course, richly deserved because of stuff they did in a previous life. Well, that caused a furore, or a Ferrari. A furore, Ferrari? Caused fuss. That'll do. Caused a lot of fuss. Anyway, how ridiculous can you get? Almost as ridiculous these mediums who think they're in trance and all they're doing is speaking with a silly voice and talking twaddle. You know, and they can talk twaddle without being in a trance. I've never seen anybody in a trance that I've believed. I think it's all nonsense. Some people really let this stuff go to their head. I remember listening to a speaker one night talking, and she's saying, oh, I was in the garden this afternoon, I was doing my gardening and talking to the Archangel Michael, and I think, oh, fuck off. What's he going to be doing talking to you while you're pulling out root vegetables? If he even existed, of course. Of course he didn't. Twat. Honestly, you hear this stuff and we're supposed to sit there and believe it and not think she's off her rocker. I personally don't think she's off her rocker. I just think she's incredibly arrogant and was just showing off. The same as all these people that, you know, spoke to Princess Diana within a few hours of her dying. How sick. Now, you know you're not talking to somebody here who does not accept that life continues after death and that spirit communication does indeed happen. And I truly object. Oh, there were some twats on the telly yesterday morning. Who were really very offensive about people such as myself. Because they believe we're con artists. And that we deliberately set out to deceive and to hurt. Because when you're dead, and that's it. And these two people know that for absolute certain. They know for absolute certain that the consciousness does not survive the physical body. Now you ask me, which twat is arrogant? You know, I am forever thankful to Shameless, a Channel 4 series named Shameless, because that's where I got that word twat from. And I love it. It just says it for me. They're always using it. They use it in two different ways. They call somebody a twat, meaning you fucking idiot. Well, actually just idiot. Sorry, excuse the French. Or you give somebody a good twatting, which means you beat them up. But it's a nice word. I just like the word twat. But one thing you were given is a brain and the ability to think for yourself. Oh, and that's really easy. Really difficult. Because of the pressures we get put under not to think for ourselves. And it can fill you full of guilt and fear to start thinking differently to the way your church has told you to think, or the way your parents have told you to think, or the way that your group of friends think. Because, you know, we don't want to be outcasts, because that's what happens when you're individual. And, anyway, this is also complicated. But you do have to think for yourself. You can't live by somebody else's conscience. You can only live by your own. And you also pay the consequences of your own thinking and action. And, do you know, wouldn't it be awful to get to the end of the life and you've taken all the consequences for the way you think, and yet it isn't the way you think at all, it's the way some bloody nun told you to think, or the way your dad told you to think, or the way your mother told you to think, or the way your teachers told you to think. How dreadful would that be? You get to your deathbed and you realise you never had an original thought for yourself. You never thought anything through. I mean, I started to, and it's not easy at all, and it has dire consequences. Oh, but it's so much better when you do, because once you get rid of all the pain involved, and you do, once you accept that it's up to you, it just gives you freedom, you know. I make my own mistakes, thank you very much. This idea that people have that, you know, they're born again once they accept Jesus Christ as their saviour and he paid for all their sins. I mean, it's so clearly bollocks. Do you know any Christians that can do whatever they like and not suffer the consequences? No, I don't either. So that's the big lie exposed straight away. Because if Jesus really had paid for our sins, then we could do what we damn well pleased and not suffer any consequences. Because that's what they say, that is all you have to believe, that if you believe that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Saviour, you are freed from sin. In other words, you're freed from the results of sin. Well, that clearly is not true. I know so many Christians who are really fat for one thing, and who are depressed for another. It doesn't stop them from having any of these things. So it's a lie, but they can't see it's a lie, and they're too damn afraid to even begin to think that maybe it's twaddle. Brainwashing really does work. That's why people do it to their children. And that's why they homeschool them. Now, before all you homeschool people start saying, no, I have very good reasons to homeschool because my child gets bullied at school or because my child had special needs, I'm not referring to you. I'm referring only to those people who home educate in order to save their children from the evil of secular education. It's those twats I'm talking about. They do it for one reason only. To make sure that their own brainwashing of their child is more successful, because it's very hard to continue brainwashing a child if they're going to school and being taught that what their parents are teaching them is a load of bollocks. And therefore they should not be allowed to homeschool for that reason. And I'd get rid of all faith schools, because faith schools are another wickedness upon children. Just another abuse of their minds, their tender minds, where we're supposed to be teaching them how to think, not what to think. Oh dear, I'm sorry I'm beginning to lecture, aren't I? I'm getting all wound up. I do, you know. I can get quite wound up. Sometimes I think I ought to really rule the world. Can you imagine? I'd be asleep half the bloody time. Have you ever seen, maybe you foreign people won't have, but people in this country might have, see Parliament in session and they behave like a load of boorish bloody teenagers. It's terrible. They're supposed to be running the country. They take decisions about whether to go to war or not, and they can't even behave like civilised people. My willy's bigger than yours, nah, 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 nah. That's exactly what they sound like. And you try and get a politician to give a fucking answer, and they don't. You ask them a question, and they spend the next 20 minutes slagging off the other political party and telling us how bad they are. If you think we're bad, they're worse. That's all it's about. Oh, they all seem to be falling apart at the moment with this Murdoch thing. Well, Murdoch's had it. News International's had it. You know, that's, well, they just have. Anyway, this video is getting long, and I've covered all sorts of subjects because my mind is like that. Did I tell you how wonderful my armchair is to sleep in? And I've had a wonderful day today. I've been swimming and I've walked the dogs, and I'm not completely stuffed. But that's because it's not Tuesday yet. Wait and see tomorrow morning. Anyway, darlings, I'm going. Bye.